Okie doke. So, I bought the ROG Rapture GT-AXE11000 or 11,000 Wi-Fi 6E router. I figured I would unbox it and set it up. You know, I get things and, you know, I don't really film them or anything, and I figured I'm buying this stuff anyway, might as well you know, unbox it, provide content to YouTube, all that sort of thing. Maybe I'll voice over this whole thing. Totally unprepared, not a YouTuber, but yeah. So 6E, what is that? So Wi-Fi 6 is really 802.11ax, which is the 5 gigahertz faster Wi-Fi, and 6E provides 6 gigahertz, which is new frequency spectrum provided by the FCC, which is relatively noise-free. But you have to have a 6E router, which we now have, as well as a 6E Wi-Fi adapter network card to take advantage of that, which I don't have yet, but I'm still on 802.11n, which is slower than AC, which, and my router is just super old, so I figure upgrade it, get the 6E, and keep it for a long time, that sort of thing. But anyway, let me dig into this thing. Hopefully that's a good vantage point. Put these batteries there. Okay. Shrink wrapped. It's cold today. Very cold. So I'm hoping to get this set up relatively quickly and then get out of here. I got my heaters up, that way things don't freeze. Upstairs, and I have some other heaters, but they're connected to wise plugs downstairs, and I had them on a timer, so I guess the timer already turned off. But to turn them back on, I need to go in my truck, grab my phone, and then re-enable the wise plug. So I'm gonna pick this back up. Shrink wrap is off. Let's see how to open it. Looks like the red side comes up. Nice and easy. So inside, we have a quick start guide, antenna instructions, the router itself. So there should be 8 antennas. Looks like they're already attached. That's a time saver. Let's set this down. Instructions for antennas. Rotate upward. Okay, so they kind of rotate and pivot. So like, see these two rotate up like that. This comes out, and it can also rotate, come up. Get rid of the plastic. So I can go out, up, and back. Filming with the GoPro 7 Hero, hopefully without fisheye. I tend to turn off anything that causes fisheye. Okay, rotate, folding design. Get rid of that. And I think we are successfully unboxed. Let's see what's in this little thing. Probably cables, power cable, network cable, and various documentation. Okie doke. So next step, I'll plug it in. We'll skip that part. It's a router, network cable, power, and then maybe do some screenshots of the interface and the various things. But I hear it has a VPN, which will be very nice. That way I can sort of remotely do more things than I usually do. But this house is pretty well, you know, smart home enabled with the various smart plugs, my Ecobee thermostats, and you know, Wise cameras. Wise is pretty good, so check them out if you haven't. But you know, it's a sharp looking little router. I think 4 of these antennas are for 6 gigahertz and 4 are for 5 gigahertz. If you get just 5 gigahertz, then you get all 8 for that. And I think it does MIMO, so multi-in, multi-out, using the various antennas, so maybe that'll be better if you have that many devices. But for me, AC, my next phone might have at least AX, if not the 6 gigahertz AX, but much better than my old router.
Okie doke. So hopefully this is recording. I was recording before, but sadly there was no audio when I finished the video. So essentially, I am currently, first I'm looking at my microphone to be sure that this is actually, so it looks like it could potentially record. Okay, so anyway, my setup's a little strange here because I am on my desktop using VNC to connect to my laptop and using my laptop's VPN to connect to the router. So essentially, the reason I'm having to do this, I'm not by the router, so I had to VPN in. The VPN worked on my laptop, but not my desktop, some Windows 10 issue. And I couldn't remote desktop from my desktop to my laptop because the laptop has Windows 10 Home, and they disable remote desktop on Windows 10 Home, so I had to use VNC. So the display is going to be a little bit slower than usual, that sort of business. But I figured I'd go through all the menus and sort of describe things. I was originally just going to speed up the video, but I'm not sure if that actually worked. So since it's going through real time and it's going to be a good, 14 minutes of web browser watching, I figured I might as well record a voiceover, stick it in there, that sort of business. But essentially, you can see there's 3 Wi-Fi's there, the 2.4 gigahertz, the 5 gigahertz, and 6 gigahertz. The wide area network IP there, the internet status is connected. It will show like DHCP error or not connected or cable unplugged if you're still setting things up. For me, I had to set up my old BIOS router to be in bridge mode to connect the Mocha to the Ethernet, bridge those two together so I could get to the ONT, optical network termination, and get a DHCP address from this router through the other router and out to the ONT for the fiber optic. Maximized it a little bit here, makes the picture look a little worse, but it's bigger at least. So this is the main page. It shows your number of clients, so that's pretty much things connected to the router over Wi-Fi or Ethernet. Network traffic. The VPN's working obviously because I'm able to connect to it. So the VPN alone makes this router worth it to me. It has that Aura RGB, which a lot of ASUS branded items have, which is pretty much, some LED lights. Looks pretty nice. You can turn it off. I think I changed it to breathing mode here a little bit versus static lights. And they got rainbow. You can pick your colors, that sort of business. You can turn it off. So down below it says the boost key. So there's a boost button. Right now, I guess it changes the mode, but you can switch it to turn the LEDs on off. Select a Wi-Fi channel or game boost, which is a quality of service packet prioritization type enable disable. But yeah, so the main page, that games radar just sort of shows you where game servers are. So you can sort of say, hey, we have low ping to, wherever you're close by to, and your ping gets worse the further it goes away, speed of light, all that sort of business. I think I just left the button to stay on Aura RGB because that's like the default. I didn't have much luck connecting to the router over Ethernet. I had to connect through Wi-Fi, but I found out that my Ethernet was set to static IP and not DHCP, so that was the issue there. There's also an app that lets you connect to the router with your phone and sort of set things up, but it's kind of user-friendly in the way that it doesn't expose technical options. So I wouldn't really recommend that way. The easiest is probably just to connect to Wi-Fi and set it up there. But yeah, Ethernet cable should have worked, but inside of static IP it wasn't working. And I had that whole bridge experience to have to get it set up that way it works. So the firewall down there, you know, I think that's where you'd set up port forwarding, but it's actually IPv6 only. So open NAT network address translation is where you want to go to set up your port forwarding option. So if you want to open up a port, go there instead of the firewall down below, which is for IPv6 only. So this is the main dashboard page. They have this AI mesh page, which is for like bringing together multiple routers. So you could have two of them, connect them together, have one as access points, and the other one as the main router. And that sort of gives you options for that sort of business. The AI protection gives like you know, security assessment. It says, hey, you know, you have open ports, you have UPnP enabled, and various other options which may provide a easier potential for hackers to get to you. You know, if you have to open a port, you know, that's fine. It's just be sure the software on that port is secure, that sort of business. So there's also parental controls. So there's even an option to like sort of log the web pages that you go to, which is kind of scary, but I suppose the ISPs do that already. So the router assessment scan sort of shows you your risks. The other stuff is, it looks like some whitelist, blacklist sort of thing. Infected device prevention, you know, so there's a bunch of security features here. I would refer you to the manual for more details. I went through here and disabled a couple things. But, you know, UPnP I left on, and I left port forwarding on because I want those ports open, that sort of business. Most everything else was green. I think there's one default credential enabled on something that I went through. I think it was just the default username, that sort of business. The game acceleration. So that's some gaming business. QoS, I suppose, is what it is. You can sort of mark your computer, say, hey, this is a gaming computer, so it should get prioritized. And, you know, it can also go look at packets and say, hey, you know, prioritize this packet versus another packet. And the game server, I think that's a third-party service. I'm not sure what Outfox is, but maybe you Google that. It says free 90-day trial. So some sort of a pay-per-month service. Open NAT, again, this is where you set up your port forwarding. So I have some ports open. I should probably black out those. Well, those are local IPs, but, you know, it shows my WAN IP out there at the top anyway, but I assume, you know, it'll eventually expire, that sort of business. So most of them map 1-to-1. The last one, since I have two port 80s, I had to map it to internal 80 on the right. This is how you set up a port, so you can type in the name, like, you know, I think I type in FTP here in a second. External port is going to be 21 for FTP normal, and the internal port, you can map that to something else. Or no, the external is the one on the outside, so if you wanted 2, you could put 21 for the normal one, and then to point to another machine with 22, and then have the internal port be 21. There's also a game list, so you can sort of pick games out of the list if you want to host a server or some business. Sometimes you have to open up a port to enable that. Game radar, this is sort of shows you where the game servers are. So, you know, like if you're playing Diablo, it shows, hey, the servers are located here. These are your pings. Wi-Fi router, so this is just sort of like channel information. I changed my name to Quantum 5G, and Quantum 6G, but it still showing old names in there. At first I had it as AXE, but it sort of shows you what channels you're currently using. It might show you, you know, sort of like noise levels, that sort of business. But, you know, it probably could use a firmware update to sort of bring that a little bit more up to date, saying how it's showing the old Wi-Fi access point names. VPN, so I enabled 2 VPNs, the PPTP and the Open VPN. There's also IPsec, but they wanted like a key. So I just left the other two open since I didn't want to have to generate a key. I'm not sure which one using Windows 10 VPN connects to. I might disable one of them in the future, just so I don't have too many things open, that sort of business. But you know, Windows 10 has a built-in VPN. It didn't work on my Windows 10 Professional, but it worked on Windows 10 Home. Both the latest Windows updates and everything, so I'm assuming that's some Microsoft problem. This traffic analyzer, I think I turned it on here in a second, and it sort of shows you what devices on your network is using the most bandwidth. And in my case, you know, there's really nothing using the network at the moment, but I have a Linux box that is, you know, serving a web page, so that's what's soaking up the most bandwidth. When you're applying settings here, you know, like opening a port or something, it takes it a while. You know, I'm assuming it's like restarting some services, that sort of business, but that'll sort of show you what's using the network there. So number one is the Linux box, and the purple isn't listed there, but it would be the second thing in the list. So this on your network map shows you all your devices connected, as well as your Wi-Fi keys and names, that sort of business. So I got quite a bit on my network. Most of them are Wise security cameras, Wise smart plugs, my Ecobee thermostats, some cameras. That's a Wi-Fi extender right there. Xerox, I'm not sure. That sounds like a printer, but I'm not sure if I have a printer. And the Chamberlain group is my garage door opener. Denon is my audio receiver for, you know, surround sound, that sort of business. It has Wi-Fi, I think. LWIP, I have no idea what that is. I need to figure out what that is. You know, but I'm sure it's something. Whenever I track it down, I'll say, oh, of course, you know, that sort of thing. But that'll show you all your Wi-Fi and Ethernet connections. In terms of ports, this has 4 ports for the regular network and 2 WAN ports, one being 2.5 gigabit. You can configure one of those ports to also be a LAN port, or sort of do like 2 gigabit Ethernets to get 2 gigabits per second. But for the most part, you know, 10 gig E is already out there. It'd be nice if it had a 10 gig E interface connection. But in terms of internet speeds, you're lucky to get 1 gigabit. So it's faster than what you need for the internet. But if you're transferring something over the network, having 10 gig E would be nice, you know, if you're doing a lot of 4K videos being transferred. But eventually you run into the hard drives, right? So, you know, PCIe NVM on card is probably like 3 to 4 gigabits or gigabytes per second. So 10 gig E would probably outrun the hard drive, that sort of thing. So this looks like wireless settings. You can set your WPA keys security. So WPA3 is probably more secure than WPA2, but I didn't want to reconfigure all of my wireless devices, so I just kept my same key and settings for the 2.4 gigahertz. I have nothing on 5 gigahertz yet. I could reset up my Wise cameras to use AC, which would be on 5 gigahertz. So this is the WAN settings, I think, or no, LAN settings. So there's your DHCP server. That'll set your IP ranges that it gives Ethernet devices automatically. And the WAN settings is how you connect to the internet. Mine's just DHCP through the Mocha connector to the ONT. And, you know, if you mess up the lease, I think they expire every 2 hours or so. So be sure you don't have any other DHCP servers on the network like I did. And it should go pretty smoothly once you have that bridge mode set up. Or you can also set your ONT to be Ethernet only, that sort of thing. If you have Verizon Fios, which is now Frontier Fios for me, but, you know, horrible customer service, but still pretty decent internet as long as it's working. I've never really had issues with it going down. But yeah, that sets up your WAN settings. For the most part, the router is pretty good about giving you status back, like cable unplugged, DHCP not available, that sort of business on that main page. The other options, there's some USB business where you can connect a hard drive to the router and sort of have it work as a file host. And you can also connect a printer to it and have, printing over the internet, that sort of business. 3G, 4G, so a cell phone, USB stick, that sort of business. So there's USB 3.0 ports on the router, so you could plug things into it and sort of have it accessible if it's a hard drive or a printer or cell phone connectivity. AI Cloud 2.0, I think that's more hard drive hosting sort of business. That probably gives it to you. It looks like there's an app, so you can go to the App Store, download the app, and then store your stuff. I'm not sure if that works from your phone. Sort of like an iCloud sort of business, maybe. I'm not too sure. I would Google that to sort of see that versus just a USB application tab differences. Alexa, you can connect your router to Alexa, which is kind of, I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, but, why not? I think it said, like one of the options, like Alexa, upgrade firmware, right? So it's like, oh yeah, Alexa, upgrade my router's firmware. So pause the internet. That's interesting. So you get mad at your kids, say, Alexa, pause the internet. IPv6, so that is for the local network. It's disabled. For the most part, IPv4 is going to be fine behind the NAT. Eventually, you might need IPv6 on the WAN side, which would be annoying, but so far I still have IPv4 available. The firewall, so this seems to be only for IPv6, and that's where I was trying to forward my ports originally, but not where you do it, because I don't have any IPv6 addresses for my WAN or my local network, and if you type in IPv4 in there, it's going to say invalid IP address, and not really tell you, hey, go to OpenNet over there to set things up. So CIDRs, those are like the 0.0.0.0/24, or uh-oh, my video stopped. Anyway, so the last two pages there, it looks like it trimmed the bottom off there, but the last two pages were a administration page and system log and network tools. So network tools is like ping, trace route, netstat, which will show your open sockets, that sort of business. System log has just logging stuff, and administration, I don't recall seeing anything too critically important in there, but I could probably look at my source video, which is over here, and sort of look at things. So bear with me for a second. Yeah, I think I trimmed some of the end off, and I must have missed some stuff. So let's see here. Yeah, so there's Wake on LAN, which is kind of interesting. If you have that enabled, you can turn on your computer over the internet and upgrade the firmware, that sort of business. Let's see. I'm trying to find that same spot, but like logs and such, so it's just sort of like a Linux logging there. And that sort of thing, but yeah, for the most part, I'm happy with the router. For the VPN alone, going from 802.11n to 802.11ax is nice, but I don't have any AX devices, let alone 6 gigahertz AX devices. But you get a laptop from Dell. The latest ones have 802.11ax on 5 gigahertz. I'm sure next year they'll have 802.11ax on 6 gigahertz, and probably the next iPhone will at least have AX on 5 gigahertz, if not 6 gigahertz, that sort of thing. So kind of future-proof yourself a little bit with this router. Probably security's better, you know, because routers tend to not get updated after they get old. At least ASUS will have a little bit better support there. And, you know, I kind of wish it had more ports. You know, it's got 4 ports there, but you can always do a switch, that sort of business. It would have been nice if it had 10 gig E Ethernet ports on it. At least one, you know, just the regular 10 base T network cable versus the weird long one, the Q SOP or whatever they're called, long connectors. But yeah, that'll only benefit you for transferring from PCA to PCB on your home network. 2.5 gigahertz is fast enough for the internet for the foreseeable future, at least until, you know, like Google fiber is, you know, more widespread. I think they might have canceled Google fiber eventually. I'm not too sure, but not available for me for the most part. But yeah, you know, it's kind of a large router. You know, it takes up quite a bit of desk space, that sort of thing. I got it by my computer currently upstairs. I could switch my ONT to be Ethernet and have it connect downstairs, but then, you know, I like having my main PC connected via Ethernet versus Wi-Fi, you know, latency, that sort of stuff. But I can always do a Mocha bridge from, or a Mocha connector from downstairs to upstairs, sort of like how it is now, and then just have the Mocha adapter there versus the whole router. But yeah, you know, I'm relatively happy with my purchase. You know, people say it's expensive, but for me, you know, I don't view it as too big of an expense. But, you know, would I be just as happy with a cheaper router with built-in VPN? Maybe, you know, but at least with this, I know I have 6 gigahertz and 802.11ax supports for my future laptop, and my future phone will probably be the main users of that. And I'll probably switch to gigabit Ethernet from Fios here pretty soon. But currently I just have 50 gigabits up, 50 gigabits down, or megabits rather. But yeah, you know, it's a router. You know, it gives you Wi-Fi. It has Ethernet ports on it. And the main benefits here is, you know, easy interface. You can set up your port forwarding pretty easy. Built-in VPN is very nice. And, you know, in terms of routers go, this is probably one of the nicest that you'll get. But, you know, you're also paying for it too, you know, so. But, yeah, you know, if you're into buying the latest phones, the latest laptops, then you'll see the benefits sooner. But eventually, as time goes on, I'm sure it'll become more mainstream, sort of like AC is now. And, you know, everyone should have at least 802.11n. But yeah, you know, it's now a nice router. I like the Aura lights, you know, although if you sleep in that room, you might enjoy the ability to turn them off as well. But yeah, happy with the purchase. Like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye.